guys, it's ASBYT. Now, of course, yesterday we saw the Apple event live. 4 new products were introduced as we expected. Again, like with nearly every single launch these days, we know everything about the product before they actually arrive. The amount of leaks are incredible, but we're going to delve straight into all of the information, all within, hopefully, and usually I'm pretty poor with timing, all within 15 minutes. Because nobody really wants to sit through 2 hours of an event when you just want the core information. So stay tuned, let's get straight to it. Now, hopefully I will have my hands on the brand new iPhones very soon, and I will be doing many videos including comparisons with other smartphones like the Samsung Note 9, the OnePlus 6 for example, so you can get an idea of how it performs in compared to those sort of main Android rivals. So if you want to see those videos, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, you turn on the notification bell so that when I post those videos, you are notified. We saw 4 new products: the Apple Watch Series 4, the iPhone XS, the iPhone XS Max, and the iPhone XR. Questionable names, but we'll delve past that and look at exactly what the products are. So as soon as the launch started, we saw the intro, of course, the lady running through the whole of the town trying to get this clicker to Tim Cook. He tweeted out, "Can someone get it to me quick as well?" just to kind of play on this story. It was mildly entertaining, I suppose. Right, so the first thing to note about the 4 new products is they're kind of based around 2 key areas: incremental updates for the smartphone and building on the most personal OS available. This is, of course, what Tim Cook put. You'll have your own opinions, let me know below. In terms of numbers, you can't really argue. They have now sold over 2 billion iOS devices, so they must be doing something right. So Tim left the stage for Jeffer to come on, as he called him, the legend that is Jeff, and he went through all of the details to do with the watch. So we have now on the Series 4 an almost bezel-less watch. It does look very, very nice. 30% larger screen without making the watch too much larger, and it's also thinner as well. Some of the things you can do with it, you can now use the complicators. I don't think that's the best term to use, that's just my opinion. And you can actually now tap to connect with loved ones, for example, on the watch face. You can have them already on the face. You don't have to go into like a specific section to phone. And you can also check time zones and all that sort of stuff right from the watch face. You can check live scores, boarding information if you're going on a flight. And it does look on the whole pretty impressive if those things are important to you. I do quite like the new watch faces as well, with the bubbles and the flames sort of thing. It does look very, very good, the way they actually interact with the hand dials, etc. The speakers have also been redesigned up to 50% louder. And overall, with the design, I think it does look very, very nice. I'm personally not a massive fan of square watches. I prefer round watches. If they could release a round watch, I think I would personally, and I know a lot of other people as well, would prefer that option, because I like having a smartwatch that looks more like a real watch. It is now the #1 selling watch worldwide, not just in smartwatches, in watches in general. So there must be a few people that are a fan of the square design, however. The microphone's also been moved to the opposite side so that in terms of call quality, for example, it will sound a lot clearer. And alongside that, the phone signal, you can actually get it through both sides now, again, adding to the good call quality. And I think it's actually made of ceramic and like a crystal. Again, very premium. Overall, it's now 2 times faster than Series 3. And one of the great new features, which I was actually pretty impressed with, is the fall feature. So if it detects a trip or a slip, based on testing and research into how the body moves when you actually do those things, i.e. arms go forwards if you were to trip, or arms kind of go up and if you were to slip, it will then react and give you the potential to make an emergency call if you're not able to get up. If it feels also, this is again very impressive, this is one of the things that they've definitely focused on this year with the Series 4 watch, health and well-being, and that's a nice thing to see. If it senses that you are immobile for a minute, it will actually send an emergency call out from your watch straight away, and it'll actually give out your location as well. So this is going to be great for all types of people, even going right through to the older generations, for example, if they are if they are prone to falls or anything like that, it's quite a good thing to have. And you also now have, again, pretty impressively, an ECG on the actual watch, so you can actually check the state and well-being of your own heart just by putting your finger on the actual round dial, which again is pretty much the first time this has ever been done. All of that information will be stored in your watch in your specific health section, and you can share this with your doctor via PDF, for example. And if you're worried about your privacy with all of this information that's being taken, it's apparently encrypted on your watch or in the cloud. Obviously these things, as you well know, can be hacked, but it does appear pretty safe. Bluetooth 5.0, watchOS 5.0, and even though it's a 30% larger display with haptic feedback, etc., the battery is still 18 hours. It's an all-day battery. Would I like to see a weak battery? Of course. 4 days battery with this bad boy, but this doesn't do some of the things that the Apple Watch can do. People often ask me what this watch is in my videos. I will leave it listed below if you're interested. Any bands that you may have bought for your watch, you can actually use on the new one. It comes in silver, gold, and space grey, and that's a running theme throughout the Apple launch. Right, so now we're going to talk price, and this was again a reoccurring theme through the Apple launch and from Apple products in general. It's not going to be for everyone. This watch starts at $399 US, or $499 if you go with the one with phone coverage. If you want an Apple Watch but aren't necessarily mad keen on the new features or prefer the old design, for example, then you can get that now at a knockdown price of $279 US. Still pretty expensive, but again cheaper than it was on launch. So available to order from the 14th, which is tomorrow, Friday, and that will be shipped on the 21st of September, and watchOS 5 will be released on the 17th. Okay, so now we're going to jump on to the iPhone. Now this, of course, is the main talking point at any of these September events. We had 3 different models. We had the XS, the XS Max, and the XR. Now there was a lot of confusion and a lot of criticism over those noise changes, those name changes over the course of the last month or so. I don't have a problem with the XS. The XS Max sounds a bit, I don't know, I'm not a massive fan of that. But they were saying the screen is bigger than the Plus model, so what's bigger than Plus, Max? You can make your own minds up about the name. Again, they claim the iPhone is now the #1 phone in the world, along with the Apple Watch. So they claim to dominate both areas. Right, so the iPhone XS, this is an incremental upgrade from the 10 last year. It looks identical pretty much. Different colors, a little bit different material build, but overall, if you had a case on it, you wouldn't really know the difference. 5.8-inch OLED display. I will flash the specs on the screen now. So the main one is like a stainless steel and gold finish with apparently their most durable glass ever. Will it still crack? You bet your bottom dollar it's glass. Year on year, the glass gets better, and sooner or later, we're gonna have a phone that doesn't break all the time. That'd be great. Available in gold, silver, and space grey, and it seemed, again, this was a recurring theme at the launch. There was a couple of things that they were kind of very excited about as being groundbreaking when really they weren't as groundbreaking unless you were an iPhone user. IP68 water and dust resistant, for example, they were pretty psyched about that. That's been around on other smartphones for quite a while. The display now has a 60% greater dynamic range, so viewing media, gaming, etc. is going to look great. Also along those lines, these stereo speakers will come in very handy, as well as the 120Hz adaptive display. Again, we saw this on the Razer phone, for example, last year. Not groundbreaking, but still a good feature. Tap to wake, Face ID in the notch, which again is exactly the same as last year. The camera setup is slightly different though, which means it's more secure and faster. And interestingly, I don't know whether you picked up on it, the wallpaper they've chosen as their main wallpaper for the new phone has a great way of going black just before the notch starts, just to kind of hide it a little bit maybe. I see what you're doing, Apple. I see what you're doing. You know people don't like the notch, and you've played a trump card there. Good one. Right, so one of the big things that, again, they talked about was this brand new A12 Bionic 7nm chip. 6-core CPU, 4-core GPU, and the neutral engine as well as a wonderful voice crack.
600 billion operations per second.
One thing every year with smartphones is people want extra storage, whether that's through a micro SD card slot, which this doesn't have, or through inbuilt storage, and the iPhone now comes with up to 512 gigabytes, matching the stat that we saw with the Note 9, but the Note 9 obviously comes with that micro SD card expansion, so you can actually create a 1 terabyte phone. One of the stats they came out with this new chip is the fact that it will now load apps 30% faster, and they were already very fast, and they talked a little bit about iOS 12, including things like Siri shortcuts, and the ability to now really enhance augmented reality, for example, with the ML, which is now 9 times faster and uses about 1/10 of the energy. With AR Quick Look as well, you can now be scrolling through Safari, for example, see a individual object on there, which is like a 2D object, and with machine learning, you can now tap on it and it will show you a 3D image. Now that is very impressive. Whether you can do that for loads of things or whether that will just be on a very small amount of things is to be seen, but I think that is a big step forwards. Now we jump onto camera, and primary sensor is a wide angle and the secondary sensor is a telephoto. One of the big things was that they showed that they had a photo that was actually the front cover of Time magazine, and I'm not saying they're lying, but it wouldn't be the first time a smartphone manufacturer has done this. Huawei. So the camera is a dual 12 megapixel setup. Now the image signal processors works with the CPU to sort exposure, white balance, noise reduction, for example. So the photos generally come out better than ever before, which again seemed to be a reoccurring phrase that he liked to use. And that might be partly down to the fact that the phone is an incremental upgrade. They wanted to try and make it look as fresh as possible, but I sense he was overcompensating a little bit. One great thing about the camera, and yes, again, this isn't necessarily a new technology, but on the iPhone it is, and for the first time you can now actually alter if you're using portrait mode, bokeh effect, whatever you want to call it, and you've got that nice depth effect, the blurred background and the sharp foreground, you can now, after the event, edit the bokeh effect. So you can actually make it more or less blurry after you've taken the photo. That is very, very impressive. Again, not necessarily brand new, but for the iPhone it is. And it is certainly something that I want to try when I get it. In terms of video, again, they said it was a massive difference. It looked like a very small incremental one for me, but the inclusion of recording in stereo sound, tone mapping, autofocus, etc., they do look to enhance the video quality. Again, needs to be tested in real world use. The battery on the XS is apparently 30 minutes longer than the 10. You're going to see the same battery life, but the Max variant, the larger phone, will be 1.5 hours longer, and that is quite a step up. The iPhone XS Max is a 6.5-inch display, so it is much larger than the XS, but outside of that, it is basically the same phone as the XS. Again, I'll leave the specs on the screen now. More network bands than ever before, and important for a lot of people in a lot of countries, dual SIM. So now we're going to quickly jump onto the XR model, and then we're going to talk about price, availability, etc. So the XR model is, they didn't describe it as this, but it is really a budget version. Apparently more durable, and that's down to the aluminium chassis. It will come in loads of different colors, more than the 3 that you get on the XS. So you get black, white, blue, coral, yellow, and there's a Project Red as well. It's going to be IP67 rated, not 68. It's a 6.1-inch display, so it's kind of like a halfway house between the XS and the XS Max, but the main real difference is the fact that it is an LCD display and not an OLED display. So you're not going to get quite those inky, deep, dark blacks as on the OLED XS. It's also not going to be quite as sharp because it's got less pixels, it's got less PPI density, but it does still have the 120Hz adaptive display, the exact same notch with all the exact same sensors, and it has the same 12 megapixel wide-angle lens that we're seeing in the primary rear camera on the XS. And the battery life on the XR is 1.5 hours longer than the 8 Plus. Now we're going to talk storage about all 3 of them and prices. Now the storage options on the XR are 64 gigabytes, 128 gigabytes, and 256 gigabytes, and the prices for those start from $749 US. And that's meant to be the budget one. You know it. You know that Apple products aren't for those with limited resources, and that's why they get a lot of flack, but each to their own. Now, you can order this phone from the 19th of October, and it will ship on the 26th. Now we're going to jump onto the XS. Storage options of 64, 256, and 512 gigabytes. Now we're on to price, and this is where I find it a little bit painful. Because when comparing to one of the top Android phones on the market, of course the Samsung Note 9, which I will be doing, like I said at the start, a lot of reviews over the 2 phones coming up. For 128 gigabytes of storage on the Note 9, for that price, you can only get a 64 gigabyte option on the iPhone XS. The XS Max also comes in those exact same 3 storage options, and it starts from $100 US more, so $1099 for the 64 gigabytes of storage option. You'll be able to order these 2 phones from the 14th of September, and they will ship on the 21st. Other older models of iPhones have also dropped, like we saw with the Apple Watch, have dropped in price, and they are available to buy right now. And the iOS 12 update will be coming, like with the watchOS update, on the 17th of September. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully I've managed to squeeze all of that information into 15 minutes, and I hope you have found it helpful. If you did, make sure you hit that like button for me to let me know. Remember, I will be unboxing and doing many comparisons between the new iPhone models and other big smartphone brands on the market. So if you want to catch all of that content, as well as all other tech reviews, I do pretty much daily content here on this channel, then make sure you are subscribed and you turn on the notification bell so that when I post those videos, you are notified. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. TSBYT, peace out.